Okay, like I said recently, I've got a lot of different books I want to talk about. And I almost started out with one of the few negatives I have, but I thought that's not really the way to, that's getting off on the wrong foot. So I would instead talk about a book which I absolutely adored, that I have a long history of with in a weird way. That's overstating it. Anyway, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. There was a movie of this in the 60s. It came on TV in the early 70s. I thought this has got to be the most boring thing I've ever heard of. Why would I watch this? There's always been these kind of movies, adaptations that came out about teachers. Um, it's a genre. I guess it's technically not the academic novel, like Stoner or something like this, because this takes place in a girls' school. It's not adults. It's not it's high school students or whatever, private school students, girls, and they're preteen girls who are this. So it's kind of more like a um, what's the one with Robin Williams kind of thing, Captain, My Captain. But it's not like that at all. It is the fantastic book, an excellent character portrait of this woman, Miss Jean Brodie, who is in her prime. She's got a certain idea about life. She believes that a person has a prime. I don't know if people use this phrase anymore, like the prime of life or whatever. She believes she is at that point. She takes this class of girls that she's going to teach. She decides that she's going to be the greatest influence they could ever have, and she's going to set them on the right path. And they love it. These girls love it. Or at least most of them do. It's a very short novel. I'm going to talk about how I found it this time. There's a channel I want to shout out called Alison Talks Books. She's got a great channel. I don't think she's been around that long, but she's obviously done a lot of public speaking and a lot of writing because her channel is just excellent. All her videos are great. I confess this was over a month ago that I read this now, so I don't remember what video she talked about it in. She used it as an example of something else, some other subject. She does a lot of high, general topics. She talks about specific books too, but she talks about things going on in the the discourse. Should we be more optimistic? Is there really a book price crisis? She deconstructs a lot of these things. She examines a lot of these issues. She's very thoughtful. I really like her channel a lot. So I don't think she needs me to shout her out, but I'm happy to do so. I hope if you haven't watched her channel yet, you will. And that's all I need to say about her. You really should watch her channel. I'll put a link to the channel in the comments, of course. I mean, in the description. So she was talking about this book. So I thought it, and she made it sound very interesting. She made it sound quite different than what I thought it was going to be, which was kind of Mr. Holland's Opus or Oh Captain, My Captain, whatever you call that Robin Williams movie. That kind of thing. The teacher against the crusading idealistic teacher and the students that adore him or her. And just the title, Miss Jean Brodie, seemed like the kind of thing I would not be interested in. It just seemed so alien to me when I first heard of this in early days. I never really thought of it as being a literary book. I didn't know it was written by Muriel Spark, whose name I know very well, but had never read before. But following up on Goodbye, Mr. Chips, I read this year, I have to say, and Stoner, which I read a few years ago, I have to say I am a fan of the academic novel, which gets a bad rap for good reason. People are often joking about it on Twitter, calling back to my last video where I complained about book Twitter, as the kind of thing that every wannabe writer, every PhD, every writing PhD writes or wants to write. Michael Chabon wrote one. Bernard Malamud wrote one. Dubin's Lives is probably his least interesting book to me. But really, why should I be upset about this? People write books about, people have to use their own experience. This is what we have over AI. AI doesn't have any experience. It just has a compilation of everything that's ever been written. But what human beings do is they take what's been written and take what they've read, and take these influences and filter it through their own personality. So, and in this book, from what little research I always do, I found that Muriel Spark did have a teacher like this, like Miss. So this is a fictionalized version. This book is short enough that it was published in one issue of the New Yorker back in the day. That's how it originally appeared. I think the only other time that was done was John Hershey's Hiroshima, which is probably a little bit longer, because that one apparently was the only issue of the New Yorker which was the entire editorial content was just the text of John Hershey's Hiroshima, which is another great novel, or great nonfiction story about the bombing of Hiroshima that you should read. But here's another picture. But she's a fascinating, unique character. She wants to mold and shape these girls into being their best selves. Which on the face of it sounds like the sappy teacher plot that we always hear about, which is just inspiring. This is not a particularly inspiring book. It is kind of it's awe-inspiring to me, the way the characters are delineated, because we get to know some of the girls very well. They're eventually called the Brodie set. By other people in the school. They're their own little clique. Jean Brodie is kind of a genius in that she does something that very few people do in life, is recognize when they're in their prime. And again, this is her own formulation of what is important in life. To know when your prime is, to know when you can do the most service, make the most difference in the world, and take full advantage of that. How many people really know when that moment comes? How many people never think in those terms? But even of the ones who do, how many people think that their greatest moments are going to be in the future or already in the past without ever experiencing that moment? So she's very fascinating that way. She's got some strange ideas, including some that come back to bite her. This is kind of a tragedy. Or maybe not, depending on how much you like Jean Brodie as a character. She is fascinating. Like I said, she was played by Maggie Smith in the movie originally, which seems like excellent casting. I haven't seen the movie. I kind of wanted to watch it. I was going to read the book, then watch the movie. And then there's even a TV series that has what's her name in it? An actress I really like, Geraldine McEwen, I think her name is. She played Miss Marple for a while later. She was in Map and Lucia. She was great in that, Map and Lucia. She's a very kind of how do I say this without getting in trouble? She's sexy in a kind of very intelligent and knowing way, I guess. So she plays a lot of interesting characters like this. Anyway, I haven't seen those, but another thing I thought is strange. It's like a 10-episode series, BBC series that was made in I think the 90s. How do you make 10 episodes out of this book? It's 112 pages long. But anyway, I love these covers. This is kind of the perfect cover for this kind of book, where it's just, okay, what's selling this? the title of the book and the brand. The brand is Penguin, which means quality. The name of the book. That's all you really need. This is kind of a cool stylistic thing, which kind of hints at a certain episode of the book when there's this day in school where the I think it was excuse me I think it was the heat's off or the something's off. Oh, I think it's summer, so I don't know if they would have had air conditioning at this time in England. This is pre-World War II. But she takes the girls out on kind of a field trip, and it's kind of a seminal moment. What really sets it, what really sets her apart for these girls is this story she tells about how her her fiance, her great love, whatever, before the war, goes to the war and dies. And this really touches these girls in her class who are, like I said, I don't know, 12 or something. They seem older to me, but that's just because of the era we live in now. They seem like 14 or 15 to me, but I think they start out and they're 12 and they're in her class, but of course they stay with her all through school. And so she becomes like an object of fascination to them. This woman, because she's had this tragic love story. The girls become kind of not, in a weird way, it reminded me of Mission was the sailor who fell from grace with the sea, which is from the point of view of these children who are viewing adults and trying to figure out adulthood. Of course, that's a much darker book. Mission was sailor who fell from grace with the sea. The children, the boys, have really kind of brutal intentions. The girls in the story aren't like that, but they do kind of get obsessed with her. We hear about some of her affairs. There's a man she likes at the college. I mean, at the school, or a couple of men actually at different times during her life. And the girls notice all this stuff, and it's a very fascinating portrait about what children notice about adults and how they kind of have their own fantasies going off, and they kind of are trying to put adults' behavior together by observing Miss Jean Brodie, who they think is, a fascinating and she is a fascinating person, a powerful person. So don't want to talk about it too much. There is kind of a turn. It's very brilliantly written. It's the kind of short book that you think must have taken someone, and you never know with these things, but person who Muriel Spark must have worked on this book as much as somebody who'd written a book that was 600 pages long, I would think. Just the way it's structured. I think the structure is really fascinating, going back and forth from different time periods, different points of view of the different girls. And I no longer am the kind of person who makes fun of or discounts these kind of autobiographical academic novels, because to me this world is this alien, and it might be to you too, in this era that we live in, unless you happen to go to private school or something like that. It's as alien as Dune. So I loved it. I put it up there. I think I loved it more than Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. It will give you a really good, warm feeling. Stoner. This is a bit more like Stoner, in the sense that we get a big view of a life in academia. Muriel Spark's a genius. Muriel Spark is a genius, at least in writing this book. So that's where I'll leave it. And I highly recommend it if it isn't clear yet.